Hi folks, this is Mike, PC31, the Vinyl Policeman, and this video is a response to a thread that's been raised by Rob Walker. It's a really good one actually. Rob Walker's asked for 10 pieces of vinyl, which which mention famous people in the title. So it could be, album title, could be a single, could be a track on an album, but basically 10 which are on vinyl. Apologies, Rob, I'm going to break the rules a bit because when I started to scribble down 10 or so, I found it a struggle at first, but then it started to flow. Two of them I thought I had on vinyl, but I only had them on CD, so I'm going to show them anyway. So I'm going to show 8 pieces of vinyl and two CDs. Before I do that, I just want a very quick shout out to a couple of guys from Iowa who I've done a few videos with recently, and it's Matthew Jensen and Jacob Rosdale, who have got a channel called Track versus Track. And what they do is they compare albums, they compare album tracks, and they rate them, etc., etc. They rank them, etc., etc. They very kindly asked me to take part in a couple of videos, and they were Kinks-based ones. So on the first one, they compared the Misfits album with Low Budget, and we went through each track comparing them. Then we kind of voted and kind of judged which was the best album of the two. We've also done a second one, and we did the Kinks Sleepwalker versus Give the People What They Want. So those particular two have concentrated on the Kinks late 70s, early 80s arena rock, Arista period. And they were really good fun doing them. So I'll put a link in this video below. So it'd be great if you could go across and have a look. Matthew Jensen's got a really good channel on his own, actually. And I'll also give you a link to Matt's channel. Right, okay. Back to Rob then. So I say Rob's put up this really good thread. I thought it was a great one actually, and when he first did it and I started thinking about it, I thought there's going to be loads, but when I started to really think about it and write them down, I couldn't think of very many. Then all of a sudden the floodgates opened and I thought of about 18 or so. So anyway, these are my 10. So the first one, which I have shown before quite a few months ago in the VC, but this was the first one that sprung to mind when I watched Rob's video. And it's from 1980, Peter Gabriel's Biko. This is the 12-inch single on Charisma. This was on the Mount album, Peter Gabriel's third album, and it's all based on Stephen Biko, who was anti-apartheid campaigner in South Africa, and he was murdered in a police cell in September 1977. This is a fabulous track. This is quite close to my heart because I was at the first concert, the first appearance when Peter Gabriel first performed this in public. And that was at the WOMAD, World of Music and Arts and Dance in Shepton Mallet. I think that was about 1980, 81. It was early 80 anyway. But so the first one, so Stephen Biko. Second one is from a punk band from London, and it's TheAdverts from 1977. And the track on this album, which was a single, TheAdverts were quite notable because they were one of the first punk bands in the UK to have chart success with a single. And the particular single here is Gary Gilmore's Eyes, and this is about the double murderer Gary Gilmore, who was convicted, and he was executed by a firing squad in Utah in 1977. And basically Gary Gilmore wanted to use some of his organs and things for a transplant, and his eyes were used as corneas of his eyes. And the song, this Gary Gilmore's Eyes, is basically all about that, looking through Gary Gilmore's eyes, so the recipient of that particular transplant. So but it's a fantastic single actually. As I say, it got to number 18 in the UK charts, but it's on this album. This isn't the first press, because on the first press, Crossing the Red Sea with TheAdverts in 1977, it wasn't included on it, but the repress, which I think came out pretty soon afterwards, does include it, and as you can see there, includes the single Gary Gilmore's Eyes. So that's the second one. Let's stay with the punk theme. So my third one is the debut album from The Clash. And the very first song on this album is Janie Jones, the opening track on the album. And Janie Jones basically was a cabaret singer, a London cabaret singer in the 60s, and she organised sex parties in a Kensington home, London home. And I think she was arrested and convicted. I think she went to prison about 1974 for controlling prostitutes. And Joe Strummer, I think, was fascinated by her. And Janie Jones is a Joe Strummer song. So that's the Clash's debut album. It's in the opening track on the Clash's debut album, Janie Jones. Right, the fourth one is one which I thought I had on vinyl, so apologies, Rob. But it's a track I really wanted to show, but I only had it on CD. And this album came out in 2011, and it's by a country artist, Eric Church. And this is quite unusual territory for me to buy a country album. But I really like Eric Church. I think he's a fantastic artist. But the reason I particularly bought this one at the time in 2011 was because there's a song on it called Springsteen. And in the actual Springsteen track, there we go, so you can see Springsteen on there. And so the actual single, I think it was the third single off the album, and it reached #1. It was one of Eric Church's first singles, I think the second one. But during the actual track, he mentions Born to Run, Born in the USA, Glory Days, I'm on Fire. It's a romance song, I think, about Eric Church and a girl, but they're talking about Springsteen and all that kind of thing. So this is the album called Chief. I'll say the track is Springsteen. So my fifth one, let's go back to the Clash. Joe Strummer. This is Joe Strummer, the Mescaleros, Rock Art and the X-Ray Style. This is the Mescaleros' debut album from 1999. And again, it's another opener. The opening track on this album, the first Mescaleros album, is a track called Tony Adams. Now, Tony Adams was a footballer, and he was the captain of Arsenal, kind of for a big chunk of the 90s. Joe Strummer was an Arsenal supporter. And Joe obviously hated injustice, and he thought it was quite unjust because we've got this tendency sometimes in the UK, we build people up, and when they reach the top, we kind of tend to knock them down. And Joe Strummer absolutely hated that. And Tony Adams had a problem with alcoholism, and so he got right up to the top. And I think Joe felt that he wasn't supported enough when he had his personal problems. So the opening track on this album is Tony Adams. My next one, straying away from punk now completely, an album from 1975 that I remember well that I bought the first day it came out, is Elton John's Rock of the Westies, his 10th studio album. And the track on here is I Feel Like a Bullet from the Gun of Robert Ford. And Robert Ford was, as you know, the guy who actually was in Jesse James's gang, and he shot Jesse James in the back. And so this is the track from Rock of the Westies. Just made a note there that it was also the B-side of the second single from the album. The A-side was Grow Some Funk on Your Own. Yeah, okay. The next one I've got is Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. And the track I've chosen on this one, it was actually on Henry's Dream, which I've got up there, studio album of Nick Cave. But this particular version, which is on, this is a brilliant live album actually, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, live from KCRW. And the track is, and it's the whole of side 4, Jack the Ripper. And Jack the Ripper, who's the serial killer, 1888, Whitechapel, London, murdered 5 prostitutes, never actually caught, so his identity is still a mystery, but he certainly existed. Yeah, Jack the Ripper. And the actual track's interesting. When you listen to the lyrics on this particular one, it could be construed as a man in an abusive relationship with a woman, or it could be construed as a man just wanting some sympathy in a relationship. But anyway, Nick Cave, Jack the Ripper. My next one is on CD. I really thought I had this on vinyl, unless I've misfiled it somewhere. But it's Pill, What the World Needs Now. And this was from 2003. 15, that's right, yeah, the 10th Peel studio album. And the track on this one is Betty Page, the third track there. And Betty Page, who was born 1923, died 2008, I think she was about 85. But she was kind of she was an American model, and Johnny Lydon considered her a real pioneer. She kind of, she did things that others didn't, and he really admired her. He actually called this a song of adoration. She was queen of the pin-ups. It's also available on a limited edition 7-inch single, which I haven't got, but Betty Page. Okay, and two for the price of one here. Mentioned the Kinks earlier. So the Kinks album from 1969, Arthur, the Decline and Fall of the British Empire. So basically, there's several singles from this one, but the first track on the album, Victoria, so Queen Victoria, who was our queen from 1837 to 1901, and that was an A side of a single, and the B side is Mr. Churchill Says. So Sir Winston Churchill, who died in 1965, Prime Minister twice in the UK. So A side and a B side. So you've got two famous people, Queen Victoria and Winston Churchill. And the final one I'm going to show is, as a guitarist, this guy is just the beginning of everything for me, actually. Chuck Berry. And the song I've chosen here, famous person, Roll Over Beethoven. So Roll Over Beethoven, which was a single from 1956 on Chess. And the actual, so it was a single. It was also on Chuck Berry Is on Top. But I've got this Golden Decade, a double album. Terrific album, actually. So much on it. Probably can't see with the glare there. But basically, Roll Over Beethoven is the opening track on side 2. And as I say, it's on Chess Records. So that's my response to Rob's really good thread. I think it's a really good one, actually. I enjoyed doing that one. So hope you enjoyed it, folks. And I'll put those links down below. Okay.